Hi there friends, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are new here, please hit the subscribe button. I am a random booktuber in the sense that I read what I like when I want to read it. So I don't necessarily read what's popular at the moment, but I think I've got a good selection of books that I read. Anyway, that's all to say. Please subscribe and like this video if you do like it. So in my previous video, I mentioned that I am sick. This is the same day and I'm still sick, but I really just want to shoot these videos and get them out there for you guys. So please stick around. So the book that I'm reviewing for this video is called The Vegetarian, and it's by Kang. So I will say that usually I've got my notes and I'm prepared, but I'm not prepared for this. I'm freestyling it. So this is either going to be really good or really terrible. So please stay tuned to find out. So this is a book that I'm reading as part of my challenge. If you don't know what challenge I'm talking about, the video is linked below in the description bar. So I am reading this book because I wanted to travel, in a sense, virtually through a book to Korea. And this is exactly what I'm doing with this book. So this was a recommendation, and I'm sure a lot of people, you all know it or maybe have heard of it, and it is a winner of the Man Booker International Prize in 2016. So when a friend recommended it to me, I was like, sounds interesting, because at the time I was transitioning into being a vegetarian, and I wanted to read again as part of my challenge something that that I have not read from an author from a country that I have not explored book-wise. So this was recommended by my friend, and I know my thoughts in this video are not going to be very popular, but honestly, I try to keep it real, and I'm just trying to be honest. So I finished this a couple of days ago, and excuse the snorting. But I've never felt like this about a book in a long time. I'm still undecided. Whether I like this book or not. Honestly. And I've been sitting with it for a couple of days trying to make up my mind, but I don't know whether I liked it or not. So let me just do this review, and maybe that will help me decide whether I like this book or not. Yeah. The story, like I alluded to earlier on, is about this protagonist, Heya, who is a housewife living in South Korea with her husband, and she gets this nightmare, and based on that nightmare she chooses to become vegetarian. And it sounds, based on that, it sounds very innocent, right? This is one of the oddest books I've read, honestly. It's so odd, and it catches you completely off guard. I'll get into that more later. So the book is divided into 3 parts. Each part is someone telling us about Heya, their perspective of what's going on with Heya. So we have the husband who goes first, we have the brother-in-law, and we have her sister. And to be honest, I found it so triggering to read about this female character from the perspective of 2 males. I don't know, there was something about it that I just disliked so much, and I felt myself being quite apprehensive. It might be that they completely objectify her, especially the husband. I mean, the kind of things the husband says about her is ridiculous. He just sees her as, a place to go have sex, a place, for for things to be done for him domestically. Like, he goes there, he eats, he gets his shirts ironed, that kind of thing. And he's just so rude and demeaning to her and thinks very little of her. So I was just like disgusted by him. He's an ass, to put it quite bluntly. He's an ass. Yeah, so I didn't enjoy the fact that it was written, through those lenses. So when the husband is telling the story, it's when he discovers Younghae looking at the fridge and just like throwing out any meat related products, and the process, and then the story becomes about him trying to figure out what's going on with her. I mean, there's so many things that happens. It's almost she goes like through this rebellion or through this transformation or enlightenment, one might say also. Yeah, it's almost like she's trying to rid herself of her animalistic senses, so, and just like, I feel like she wakes up one day and realizes that she's lived a life that's been designed by other people. So, and also she has, she grew up in an abusive, like her dad was abusive. Like, her dad would physically hit her, and she was the only one in the family who was getting hit. So it just feels like one day she has like this awakening almost, and she's like, okay, I need to change my life. I need to stop eating meat. I need to stop pretty much following what society tells me that I need to do. So it's in increments, but it just progressively gets worse. And so the next part, we are introduced to, like, we see her via the brother-in-law. Please excuse the dog barking. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that. So the brother-in-law is this video artist who's lived, like, I feel like a very boring life. And a lot of these characters, honestly, it feels like they've just lived according to rules, what they've been told, how they've been raised, and they're very dutiful in their way of living. So the brother-in-law is also someone who is like that. He's an artist, but he hasn't really, like, he's on the edge, man. He's like, there's a lot of questioning in this book, it feels like. What is the meaning of life? Why do I do what I do? That kind of thing. So the brother-in-law is also like that, but then he becomes like artistically and sexually obsessive. Yeah? He becomes so obsessive with Younghae, and I mean, the kind of things that happen between Younghae and the brother-in-law, I'm just like, oh, this is scandalous, Yeah, and I don't want to give away a lot, but eventually Younghae starts losing her way. She goes from, I'm just rebelling from all these things, I've been told, I'm rebelling from how, I've been told to live, and yeah, and she kind of loses it. And at some point, she wants to become a tree or a plant of some sort. Listen, when I tell you this book is odd, it's odd. And so later on we see her, and she is institutionalized. God, I can't speak today. And we see the sister trying to take care of her, and how the sister is also goes into this questioning mode, like, could Younghae be onto something, or has she just completely gone nuts, yeah. And it's hard to kind of find the essence of what the story is about, but for me, I walked away almost feeling like there's an awakening and enlightenment that happens with Young Hae, she suddenly wakes up and finds like, okay, this life that I'm living, I've got questions. There are holes in this theory. Like, I need to find my own way, and eventually that leads her into what feels like madness to me, and maybe to someone on the outside. But like when you've almost like come to a different way of being in the world, sometimes onlookers can see that as madness, you know, and it can feel as madness. I mean, if you've been alternative in any way, like there's a lot of justifying that you need to do, regarding how and why you're like that. And I feel like maybe the book is commentary on that thin line, very thin border between like this enlightenment and finding ways and alternative ways of existing, and just going beyond that and just losing yourself into like other worlds, and you are unable to function in this world. Thin line between enlightenment and madness, thin line between genius and madness, right? So that's the sense that I felt. Yeah. But the reason I think it's very odd, it's just, and I think, and I think the reason I'm struggling to say whether I liked it or not, it's almost like that sense you get once, when you watch like a psychological thriller. It's creepy and it's disturbing, and you walk away like, ugh, you know what I mean, with that sense of being creeped out. So much so that maybe you don't see the brilliance in the thing that you've watched or the thing that you've read. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you've watched like a horror film or a psychological thriller, you know that sense that I'm talking about, and you're so creeped out that you're like, you just don't even want to look at it. But then maybe it's too much that it overshadows the brilliance of the story, the brilliance of the ideas that are being challenged. So that's where I'm at with this book. So other things I found challenging about this book is there's some parts I was just like, that's not believable. God, the dogs. So there's some parts that I don't find believable. For instance, the way Young Hae's family reacts to her being vegetarian, I'm just like, whoa, chill. She's just being vegetarian, you know? It's just like some parts I'm just like, whoa, that's like a serious overreaction. But I recognize that it's part of the culture, right? Um, which is brilliant because this is why I'm doing this challenge, this reading challenge, just to be like immersed in different worlds and see how people think and how people behave. So it was quite interesting to witness that. And I was like, that would make sense if I was from that culture. It will make sense that I'm reacting in this way because, there's like a conservativeness that is definitely there. Yeah, so there were like, I had issues around that, but once I came to that like realization and understanding, I kind of was like, okay, maybe you need to. I think that was kind of like, okay, this is a little odd, this is a little interesting, this is a little something I'm not used to, was the language. The use of the language, the use of words. And that's just because it's translated, right? So there's certain words I was like, that feels a little odd there, or a little clunky. And I've worked on translations before, so I understand like some things cannot be properly effectively translated. So that's just something to bear in mind when you're reading this book. The style of writing I thought was good. It's very like, the writer comes across quite conservative actually in the way she narrates or in the way she writes the story, and I think that might also be I don't know, is it not a cultural thing? But yeah, there's something very simple and quiet about the way she writes it, which is actually in hindsight perfect, because if the writing was complex, this honestly, this book would be unreadable for me, because the story itself is already so complex. I could not have dealt with like any more complexities. Brilliant or was not brilliant? And maybe the fact that I'm left with questions and left with sort of like, I don't know, is that the brilliance? I don't know. If you've read this book, please, I'd beg you, please comment down below. Let me know what you thought. But if you're looking for something that is odd, something that is a little challenging, something that is just different from anything, I can guarantee this is different from anything you've ever read. I can guarantee that. Yeah, yeah. So guys, that was my book review, and I freestyled it, and I'm actually so proud of myself, because I didn't think I would be able to articulate what I was thinking and what I was feeling about this book, but I think I did I? Yeah, anyway, before I go on and on and on, thank you so much for tuning in. So you know the dealio. Please subscribe, please comment down below if you've read this book, please, and like the video so that it reaches more people. I appreciate you. Thank you. Bye.